Hello, and welcome to the latest Shaw podcast. Today, I'm joined by Shaw Consulting Managing Director Chris Shaw to discuss Awaab's law and the implications for the social housing sector and its systems. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Steve.
Chris, thanks for your time today. Perhaps you could start by just explaining the background to Awaab's law and what the legislation does.
Sure. Awaab's law comes into effect on the 27th of October this year, and it requires social landlords to investigate and fix dangerous damp and mold within strict timescales, with emergency hazards requiring a response within just 24 hours. So the legislation stems from that tragic death of the 2-year-old Awaab Ashak, and it gives tenants powerful new rights to take landlords to court, and the regulator powers to issue unlimited fines when that legislation is breached. So just about damp and mold though, by 2027, the law gets extended to cover all 29 housing health and safety rating system hazards.
Okay, so what's the technology challenge faced by organisations working to ensure compliance with this new legislation?
I think the first thing is, given those timescales set out in the legislation, the challenge is to make sure that the systems move from that reactive to that proactive approach. Organisations' property management systems will need to ensure that the issues around damp and mold are planned out through preventative maintenance. And also, when issues do occur, that they are identified and dealt with quickly. A key part of this is the housing management systems and the repairs management systems that organisations and their contractors use.
So, how are some of the main housing management system providers adapting their software?
Well, to be honest, it's a bit of a mixed picture. If I talk about the different systems that are out there, Rubik's, we did their research, they seem to stand out. They've got an 8-week release cycle for their software, with it being a SaaS solution. They've got IoT integrated into their platform. So that's allowing, properties where they've got these sensors in there to automatically trigger work orders. And that helps to deliver a proactive approach. And for customers that are using their software, it could be, quite a game changer. MRI software, they've conducted, some specific webinars for their clients on damp and mold prevention, and they've got some real-time asset management tools that can help identify, again, the issues before they escalate. But others, they've got strong foundations, so organisations like Ariane, Civica, HomeMaster, MIS, and NEC, in their platforms, they've got the capability for their systems to be configured. But, that success depends on setting up the right workflows, the dashboards within the systems, and making sure that the processes are strong enough to deal with the SLAs that they have to comply with. And then, there's a couple of best of breed solutions out there. One we came across recently called MadeTech, and they've got a hazard case management system. And Mobisoft's got a damp and mold module, which is part of their Repair Sense platform. But like I mentioned earlier, technology alone won't solve this. Awaab's law demands 3 fundamental shifts. The first is from that reactive to that proactive delivery model. Traditionally, that 5-year stock condition surveys are no longer going to be adequate, really. You need to be monitoring real time, looking at how you can do your predictive maintenance with the systems that you've got, and make sure that you've got that early intervention systems. The second shift is moving from that siloed to that integrated approach. We've got that requirement of emergency responses, which to make sure that works effectively, you're going to need to have some seamless integration between your housing management systems, your repair systems, asset management, if you're using CRM, your CRM systems, and obviously your mobile working platform, be that the ones that you use internally with your own workforce, but also if you're outsourcing the work on damp and mold and hazards to contractors, then we need to make sure that their systems are robust enough to ensure that we're complying with the timescales. So it's not about data flowing in overnight batches anymore. This has to be done in real time, and updates have to come back in real time. And I think finally, we're going to see that shift from process driven to outcome focused. So, it's not now about just ticking a box saying I've complied with that. It's about making sure we're preventing harm in the first place. And that means really understanding tenant vulnerability. So having some really good customer information in our systems, having systems that help us address root causes and ensure repairs actually work. And I think finally is making sure we've got some really robust analysis. There's going to be silent customers out there. So if we're getting problems with properties that are having damp and mold issues or other hazards, properties of that same type in that same location or with those same characteristics may have those issues, but we've got silent customers. So how are we going to address those? So, there's going to be some real change required to ensure that organizations are doing things properly.
I think you make a really important point there, Chris, not to lose sight of the fact that this is about preventing harm. It's not just about compliance. So, what should housing organisations be doing to get ready for this if they aren't already ready?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to be looking at. I think housing organisations should be looking at auditing their current emergency response capabilities, looking at how it works end to end across the systems, across their business processes, testing those 24-hour response protocols, making sure that the systems are helping them to monitor and deliver against these tight timescales, reviewing the housing management system's readiness and compliance, and working with those solution providers if needs be. And I think, identifying any critical gaps in contract capacity and their emergency procedures. By the time that law comes in October, they should have configured, tested, and have automated workflows in place for this emergency escalation. Implemented real-time compliance dashboards so management have that oversight, establish that 24/7 emergency response capability, and make sure that their team, their staff, are trained on those new standards and know what they need to comply with legally.
Thanks, Chris. Some really sound advice there. If any listeners have any concerns about their system preparedness, I presume you'd be happy to have an informal chat if they want to get in touch.
Yes, certainly. I mean, we've been working with other providers, looking at what their systems are doing currently and how they need to change. And, we've been providing them with advice on what needs to be done and, even helping them look at the options for solutions if their existing systems just aren't delivering what they need.
Chris, as ever, thanks very much for your time today and for taking us through this really important forthcoming legislative change. Please make sure you follow our social media channels for more podcasts coming up in the future. Thanks for listening.